All right, you got the proposal in your hand. You're staring at that number and you say, this looks good. And you send it off to the customer. And that tiny little secret that you know and nobody else knows and you don't want to confront it is that price was way too low. You underbid that project and you sent that proposal off anyway, and you knew it. Here's the worst part. The market didn't tell you to give that price. Your competition didn't tell you to tell that price. The client didn't ask for that price. You did it. I want to make the deal. I want to make the sale. They worked with me a lot. They've earned a deal. You have figured out one way or another to lie to yourself that this was the easy thing to do and the right thing to do. But in your head, you know and I know that you are hurting your company far worse than any material cost change. You are underbidding your company's work. That's what we're going to be talking about today on the podcast. All right, welcome back to the AC Methods there in Clippinger. We're going to be talking about that voice in your head that is hurting your company more than anything else. Yes, when you lie to yourself and try and figure out how to justify the lower cost to make your life easier. You know, sales is not a fun gig. It really isn't. It takes a person to be able to think quickly on their feet, be able to drive home the points that are important, shy away from the points that could hurt their case. Figure out how to make a deal for a good sign, how to put all these pieces together, their logo, the building, the view, where the sun hits, all these parameters, and put it in this perfect package so the client gets maximum advertising. You know what's funny in the signage world? We charge for what it costs us and then some. Historically, what it is. We don't charge for the advertising value that sign brings to the customer. We don't charge for how much money they're going to make off that sign. We literally charge for what it costs us plus some. Historically, across the board, everyone does it, including myself. But what we're really going to dive into is how much of a percentage should we be taking based on what's going on in our world. Now, one of the difficult parts is all of us did not grow up owning a sign company. We didn't pop out of the womb and they said, hey, here's a multi-million-dollar organization. Good luck, kid, and walked away. We were all employees at one point in time. And we were taught to trade time for money. We were taught that, hey, if you work really hard, you're going to make, sadly, back in my day, $4.50 an hour was minimum wage. And you're going to make $4.50 an hour. For every hour that you stay here and work, you get another $4.50. And if you don't work hard, we're going to replace you. If you do work hard, you get your job. And maybe you might get a promotion and maybe a pay raise if you work hard. And that was the world that we lived in. Time for money. And then one day we decided to grow up, take a couple risks, and we decided to become an owner. And then the school of hard knocks showed up, right? Instantly, overnight, we have HR problems and law problems and whatever our state said, and we have all these things coming at us. We're like, oh my God, why is it so difficult to run a company? All I want to do is make a product and sell it. And the world doesn't allow you to. They have all these rules and regulations and everything else that you have to hop through. You're going to jump from one foot to the other, trying to do everything correctly. And let's not lie, unless you have a team behind you, it is nearly impossible to do everything perfectly because the bureaucrats and the BS in the world that we have today make it so damn difficult for us to get anything done. So we always have all these little steps. And throughout that process, nobody really taught us this really strong tool here that we're going to talk about right now. And this tool is so important because most people don't have it. They don't even understand it. And that tool is you are not an employee anymore. You are a business owner. Employees exchange their time for money. Owners exchange their risk and the value at the outcome of the end. Owners need to price it based on how much risk they're going to take and how much that my client's going to get at the end of it. That mindset shift, hardly anybody makes. You see it time and time again. Because if you really figured out that your time frame is $180 to $200 an hour, what it costs you to run your sign company, maybe that's a little bit on the retail side, but let's say $140 to $160 is your cost per hour. You never made $150 to $160 an hour. You made $30 an hour. And you can't comprehend how it costs that much to get it done. So you feel like you're overcharging. Sound familiar? You know you'd have. If you're listening to this at some point in time, you have priced like this and you know it. And your gut is kind of turning right now because you know, damn it, I fell in this trap. I'm with you. Everybody falls in this trap. I will tell you, it's not a fun trap to be in, but we're going to talk about it and hopefully you'll be smart enough to reset your brain. We're going to talk about that. But first, I really want to dial into the mindset trap. There's a couple things you're going to be looking for. Number one, you're pricing on what the job costs you plus a little bit. Okay, this job's going to cost me $1,000. I'll charge $1,200. Life would be good. Yeah, that job directly costs $1,000, but you forgot about all your overheads. You forgot about your insurance. You forgot about the internet bill. You forgot about your cell phone bills and all those extra expenses, your officer salary, how you pay yourself, the accountant, how you pay them at the year end, your workers' comp. As much as we all hate that, we have to have it. You know, all those big bills show up and there's a cost to solve them. If you don't slice those up as a percentage and put that against your direct costs, you're undervaluing the project. You're underbidding the project. So we really have to look at the whole and say, okay, what is our real cost? Not just direct cost, but our real cost to get something done. Then after that, then you can say, okay, what risk can I take? You guys have to figure out that jobs are going to go south. And if you're not covering that some of the bad things that could happen, you're only charging perfect case scenario, you're leaving so much money on the table. You have to charge for what could go wrong a couple ways. You could do perfect and you could nickel and dime out of the customer. But when's the last time you went and got a burger? You know, like I would like fries, like that's an extra $1.50. Why I like a soda, that's an extra $1.10. Why I like ketchup, well, that's an extra 40 cents. Why I like guacamole, that's an extra 15 cents. And you're like, my God, you know, as it adds up, it's a $30 burger. You're going to walk away with a bad taste in your mouth. It's a bad experience. You're not having fun. You could do that to your customers, but you know how that's going to end up. So we have to put into the build of the cost plus enough where it's risk assessment as well. And you notice that your customers don't own sign companies. Why is that? They don't want to take the risk. So you have to add in value of what you're doing of taking the risk on and their end outcome. So don't be so scared to put it into little packages and just say, oh, it cost me $1,000. Oh, $1,200 is my sell price. You're leaving money on the table. Your competition, you know what they're selling signs for. And if you go, hey, I'm going to sneak in just underneath them, I'll look like a better deal. It's going to be an easy sell. How do you know your competition's pricing it correctly? How do you know they know what they're doing? There's going to be a really good chance they have no idea what they're doing either, and they're just pricing something based on gut feels as well. Heck, they might even have the employee thought process still. You know, you're smart enough to understand that, but they're still thinking they're an employee too. So they price it so low that they're barely making any money. And you look at them as a competition and say, okay, I got to be right underneath them. You are driving yourself to the bottom. Now it's pure competition, drive to the bottom, Walmart strategy. You know who loses? You do, because you're going to be out of business. You're not going to have money to support. Have to raise the prices to what they're going to actually buy. And put to the point, to the limit of, you might even have to push a little bit higher than that. We're going to get into that in just a second here. Your guilt. You know, you feel guilty. You look at the number and you're like, God, would I buy that? And as soon as you're like, I wouldn't buy that, then you've lost value in what you're selling. You yourself don't believe in what you're selling. And that's going to be eluded in everything that you do. And in turn, you're going to devalue what you're actually giving to the client. Big marketing firms, they're all expensive, right? Because they know what they bring in the way of value to the customer and they understand it. We are the best advertising firm out there, right? We're on 24/7. We don't take a vacation. We don't take a lunch. We don't have restroom breaks. We don't take holidays. We're out there 24/7. A sign is the best advertising ever. It's the best marketer in the world. So let's get our money's worth for it. Do not feel guilty for what you give. Feel guilty if the project falls apart because you built a bad quality sign. Learn from it, fix it, don't do it again. That you can feel guilt from. But don't feel guilt for the price that you're asking for, because they're getting 10x the value out of that sign. So watch the guilt. And then the fourth thing that we got to talk about here is, if you're winning all your bids, you're priced too low. Your customers can sniff out a deal when they know there's a deal. And when there's a deal and somebody doesn't understand their own value, they're going to take advantage of it. Reminds me of my gardener. I have a huge house, huge property, all these plants everywhere. My gardener charges me $300 a month to keep it clean. I would have paid $600 or $700 a month and been perfectly happy, but he charges $300 a month. I know that's a screaming deal. Am I going to tell him that? Absolutely not. I want to keep my money in my own pocket. But am I going to use him? Absolutely, all the time. He gets the work. He's happy, but he's working his fingers to the bone for pennies. And he's leaving so much money on the table because he didn't ask for it. He didn't see the value in what it brings. When I come home, I have peace. There's no weeds. Everything's pretty. I walk in, I go, ah, and I can relax from a crazy day. He's bringing more value than picking a weed, but he doesn't know that. So he's leaving so much money on the table. So don't be afraid to raise your prices and watch. If you're winning 80% or more of your bids, you're priced too low. You should be in the 50 to 70% range. That's my gut. That's what I've seen from a lot of the sign companies. I talk to owners. They go, yeah, I want to be in around 60, 65% success rate. If I'm past 75, I'm too low. I need to raise my prices. So those are the 4 things that you want to watch out and do not get stuck in those traps.
Just want to take a moment to talk about Square Coil here. Square Coil has been powering the signage industry since 2011, and we're only growing bigger and better and stronger every single day. Some of the latest updates have just made my life a lot easier. I'm sure it's going to make your life a lot easier. So if you haven't checked us out, go ahead and get on our website, squarecoil.com. Take a look. And if you have an outdated key, an old software program that's going to be closing its doors this year, definitely take a look at us because we can make that transition real simple for you. Take a look at squarecoil.com.
Now let's get to the real reason why it's happening. It's not about spreadsheets, but it's the psychology of it. You're afraid of losing the deal. You go, oh, if I price it too much, they're going to go with somebody else. They're going to lose the deal. Yes, that's true. 40%, 4 out of 10 are going to walk away from you at the right price. That's okay. You shove enough stuff down the pipe, it's bound to fall out the other end. That's okay. But if you're literally getting every single quote signed, you are leaving money on the table because they're sniffing out deals. It's okay to lose 4 out of the 10. Now, when you start losing 6 out of the 10, maybe we've gone a little too far, or you haven't expressed the value that the customer is earning before they're going to sign on that dotted line. Even if I'm losing 6 out of 10, I'm not really going to lower the price right away. I'm going to say they did not like me. Do they not like the company? Maybe they don't like the product. They don't understand the product. I'm going to have to go in there and dial in a little bit. I'm going to have to make sure that they understand the product more and understand truly what they're getting. Then they're going to see the value in it. One of my favorite statements ever when somebody comes to me and says this price is too high, I say, do you not see the value in the sign, or are we over budget? So those are 2 very big things, very different things, and we can attack each accordingly. Reason 2, we already talked about this. You don't see the value in what you're selling. If you don't see the value in it, you're already going to lower the price just because you can't see it. That's that employee mentality. We don't want that at all. And then anchoring to what you make as an employee, same thing. We're talking about this, $200 an hour. I never made that. We couldn't possibly charge that. Bad thought process. Definitely where you don't want to be. All right. So how do we fix this? Well, just because we know about it doesn't mean we're already something that smart. Like, we know about it. We're aware of it. Knowing is half the battle. If you're old G.I. Joe fans from the 80s, yes, totally true. I completely agree. 50% there. We want to get a little bit better. So reset. How do I reset? What is the actual outcome my customer's getting from me? Do they have this beautiful sign on the side of their building? Is it going to bring in all this advertising dollars? Yes. Well, did you tell your customer that? Did you make them aware of the value that they're getting? Sometimes people are not buying because they're unaware. You ever walk up to a baseball shop and they have the baseball bats sitting there, and one of the bats is $80, one of the bats is $150, one of the bats is $300, and you can't tell the difference? And you try and read them, little sticker, and it says all powerful, and the next one says all powerful, and the next one says home run hitter. Why am I going to spend $300 when it looks identical to a $150 bat? They didn't put the value of why that bat's so much more money. Twin wall aluminum, double rolled, all the cool things that it costs more money, hence why it costs, it's going to sell to you for more money. If you don't know it, you're not going to buy it. Does your customers understand the value of what you're selling? A little education goes a long way in making sure that price sticks that you're going for. All right. This is a tough one. This is a tough one that I'm still learning. What is the worst case scenario of this project? What if everything goes sideways? What does that cost? We need to factor that in when we go to bid these things. If you think you're going to price everything by going perfectly, you might as well just be trading paint. You might as well just be selling everything at cost because you're not going to make any money. You have to put in the risk of what it's going to take. How much is it truly going to cost you if it goes sideways? You have to figure that out. If it's a $200,000 job, you're going to know that 20 grand, that's probably going to go sideways. You need to buffer that in there. You can nickel and dime the client, but again, that bad experience can be a problem. So you got to think about middle case scenario. I'm not going to say worst case. I sure as hell ain't going to say best case either. So middle case scenario is really what you should be pricing. This is a really tough one. And I always get pushed back on this one, but you got to hear me out. You got to pay attention to how many deals you're losing. You know, Square Coil has it. It's a report in there, volume report, really simple to see very quickly how many jobs you're winning or you're losing. You got to see how many you're losing. You got to stay in that 60, 65% kill ratio. That means 35 to 40% you're losing. If you are winning 80% or more, you're leaving so much money on the table, the customers are understanding that. So you got to reset it. So here's an idea. Pick one little tiny service. Pick one little tiny area, one sign type, and I want you to raise the prices 20%. Send out 10 proposals at the new 20% up higher price for just one little sign type. I'm not asking you to rebook your entire system. I'm not asking you to up all your prices across the board. Just pick one little one. Go up 20%, send out the 10. How many people bite? How many people don't? That's going to be your barometer for what you can charge. That's your first clue that see what's going on. And then after that, you got to figure out how that's going to work. So you raised one small sign type, 20%, you send it out to 10 people. And then the one person that's beat you up on the price, I want you to get them on the phone. I want you to explain the value. And write this down. This is the question I want you to ask. Do you not see the value in the sign you're buying, or are we over budget? There's cultures out there that just bargain just because they can bargain. They don't care about the value. They don't care about it. They just want to bargain because that's part of their culture. Find out who those people are, know their heritage. But for the most part, they're just whittling you down because they just think that's what they're supposed to do. They don't really know what they're doing. They're just doing it because that's what dad did. Ask them, what value do you not see in this? They might find out I'm just over budget. I want it, but I'm over budget. Okay, well, if I'm buying a car, guess what? You're not going to get AC or power windows. You're going to have to get, drop down a little bit. You're going to have to figure out how to put the value in their side of their budget. You got to ask that question. Very important question. Personal growth, personal growth and running the sign industry, they're the same outfit, different clothes on. As you see your sign company better, as you see what you're selling as just not a commodity, but a work of art, you're going to see the value and you're going to raise your prices instinctively. If you are taking all this debt, all this risk, everything that has to go about it, you need to get paid for it. Don't race to the bottom. It's only going to hurt you. At the end of the day, you're going to lose. I will tell you that there have been times where I've raced to the bottom when our sales get slow. Horrible idea. Absolutely horrible idea. In fact, just the opposite. When we start to get slow, I raise my prices and I chase after the customers that see the value in it. And that's what floats me over. Because if I'm just going to run around trading paint and pretty much getting no profit, why am I going to work my fingers to the bone with all these lowered costs for all this more work? Raise my prices, go after the clients that really see the value, and it keeps the same for me and I can just slow down. And so that way I don't have these mouths to feed. The harsh reality of owning a sign company. Tune in next week. We're going to be talking about a very similar topic, but on the other side of the spectrum. Talk to you then.